and welcome to Stories and Stuff. This is the third in my series of fun writing games, and today's game is called Story Jigsaw. Now, Story Jigsaw is all about finding the pieces of the puzzle that fit, and actually I think this is my favourite game because it can be really silly. You can end up with absolutely ridiculous stories. I think you're going to enjoy it. Let me show you how to play. You just need pen and paper, and what you have to do to start with is write a very short, very simple story. Keep it really simple. The good thing about this story is you don't actually have to write everything down. You have to leave some gaps. Let me read the first story to you as an example. So I'll just say when there's a blank, so you can kind of follow what's going on. The Princess and the Once upon a time there was a princess who had hair and a One morning her father the king said, "You must find a to marry." She set off to find one. On the way she met a standing in a "You look like someone I could marry," she said, and she proposed. "Oh yes," said the with a smile, and they When they got back to the castle, the king and they all lived happily ever after. Once you've made your story, then you have to go and ask somebody to give you some words. Now, you're not going to tell them what the story is about. You don't want to give them any clues, but you have to ask for specific types of words. The first thing I'm going to ask for is, because it goes in front of princess, I'm going to ask for an adjective or a describing word. I've gone and asked somebody in my family for a describing word and they've said shiny, and I'm going to write that word in the gap. The next one, you can see it's describing her hair, so I will ask for another describing word or adjective, and I've asked somebody in my family and they've said cold, and you fill that in the gap. Try not to read it back till right at the very end. You'll be very tempted because it will start to sound really silly. There are two gaps, and what we want here is an adjective and a body part. So you might have blue eyes or pretty face, but of course the person that you're asking doesn't know what our story's about. So when I asked a member of my family, they gave me a describing word which was huge and a body part which was thumb. I guess you're starting to get the idea now. Then the king tells her she has to go and find somebody to marry. The next one you're going to ask for is a noun. It can be a proper noun. You're going to ask for a type of person, and someone in my family said teacher. Then he tells her to go off and find someone to marry, so she sets off, and then you have to ask your person for a place, and my person said North Pole, so I'm going to write North Pole in there. She sets off and she sees, and there's a gap. Now, I'm not going to ask for a person this time because I want to make my story fun. I'm going to ask for a living thing, and the person said whale. Now, whale is going to come up a couple of times. First of all, you're going to have to put it right at the top, the princess and the whale, and I think it comes again later in the story. Then the whale is standing in, I'm going to ask my person for a place, and they've said garden centre, so I write that in. She proposes and they say yes, and now I have to ask somebody to tell me a verb, something that somebody will do. And they said jump on a trampoline. So in that gap I'm going to put jumped on a trampoline. It's going to be jumped because this story is all in the past tense. And then they go back and they tell the king, I have to ask the person again for another verb or a doing word, and they say fall asleep. Now, because this is in the past tense, I'm going to change it to fell asleep. Then my story is complete, and I get to read it out loud and have a right laugh at it. So listen to this story. The Princess and the Whale. Once upon a time there was a shiny princess who had cold hair and a huge thumb. One morning her father the king said, "You must find a teacher to marry." She set off to the North Pole to find one. On the way she met a whale standing in a garden centre. "You look like someone I could marry," she said, and she proposed. "Oh yes," said the whale with a smile, and they jumped on a trampoline. When they got back to the castle, the king fell asleep, and they all lived happily ever after. See, Story Jigsaw's great fun, isn't it? Let me show you another example. I've taken part of a traditional tale. I'm not going to write the whole lot. This is meant to be fun. I don't want to sit writing for an hour, but I've taken the Three Little Pigs. The Three Little Monkeys. Once upon a time there were three little monkeys who lived with their mum. One morning Mummy Monkey said, "It's time you went off and found your own swimming pool to live in." They screamed goodbye and set off. The first made his house out of eggs. The second made her house of flour. And the third made his house out of butter. Unfortunately, the big bad peacock came along and gave them all a birthday present. Mummy Monkey was bored. The end. So that is Story Jigsaw. It takes a little bit of effort to do the story and put all those gaps in, and you can keep it really short. It could just be 2 or 3 sentences. And remember, this isn't about perfect handwriting or spelling or grammar. This is about having a really good laugh. And that's one of the main reasons we write, is to entertain one another and have fun. So I hope you enjoy it.